Welcome to the Career Boost podcast from the Medical Portfolio Hub. I'm your host, Ricardo Valdeiras Lopes. Joining us today is Dr. Carlos Aguiar. Carlos is a cardiology consultant at Hospital Santa Cruz, Lisbon, where he shares the Advanced Heart Failure and Heart Transplantation Unit. But he is known not only for his clinical expertise, but also for his leadership positions within the Portuguese and European societies of cardiology. With a strong presence in both the national and international cardiology arenas, Dr. Carlos Aguiar has contributed significantly to shaping modern cardiovascular care and policy. His career reflects a unique blend of clinical excellence and strategic vision, with a unique approach to boost communication and deliver important messages. Carlos, thank you for being here on the Career Boost podcast.
Thank you, Ricardo. It's really a pleasure, and thank you for having me here.
I'll start by asking you to walk us through your career journey so far. What were the pivotal moments or decisions that helped shape your path in cardiology?
Well, I think I've had, as you've said in your introduction, quite a multifaceted career. On the one hand, I decided to become a cardiologist, and I entered medical school in 1987. I did my cardiology training at Hospital Santa Cruz, where I began in 1996, and I've been there since then. So I continued on throughout my career, first of all as a staff physician at the intensive care unit, and then later on I changed to the adult heart transplantation and also the advanced heart failure unit, which I currently chair. Academically, I've been also involved with the Nova Medical School, where I did all my medical training. Since 2012, I've been an assistant of the Nova Medical School. I've also helped advise the national program for cardiovascular and cerebrovascular disease. This is under the auspices of the Directorate General of Health in Portugal. I've been an advisor since 2005, so now for about 20 years, and am currently the deputy director of this program. I've also been a member of Health Technology Assessment Committee in Portugal, and these two things have brought me quite close and given me quite a lot of insight into health policies in our country. Then I've also had some important leadership roles in scientific societies and also in medical associations. I began this in the Portuguese Society of Cardiology between 2009 and 2013. I was first secretary, and then I was one of the vice presidents of the board. I was also appointed a member of the Scientific Council of the Portuguese Atherosclerosis Society. So this is another society. And I've been a member of this council since 2018. I was also vice president of the cardiology section of the European Union of Medical Specialists. And so this brought me close to the aspects of medical training and the regulation of medical training, in particular in cardiology in Europe. And I've also been an active volunteer of the European Society of Cardiology since 2014. I've served two mandates in elected positions on the board as a councillor and currently as a vice president. So overall, I've been a physician. I think being a physician is the most important part to me. It's, as I say, the best part of my day is the part where I'm seeing patients. That's really what I like to do. But I've been involved in education, pre-graduate and postgraduate. I've been an advisor to healthcare policies, and I've had the opportunities to engage in the activities and the mission of scientific societies and medical associations. So I think I've been quite a happy person with all these opportunities that have been given to me.
Was there a mentor or key figure who had a particularly strong influence on your professional growth?
I think, what the first mentor is always someone very important because that's the first person to start shaping how your career is going to move. And this person was Ricardo Seabra Gomes, who has passed away some years ago. He was my first director at the Department of Cardiology, where I still work today. And I think there are two things that I really found very important in the way he was relating himself with patients. He was extremely respectful. He ensured that we would learn how to be respectful to a patient. He was a great listener, and he was always concerned about the patient's agenda, what the patient was concerned about, what was the patient's objectives with treatment, etc. And this really showed me how to connect better with people, with patients, how to help them better by understanding them much more in the way they see themselves in their disease. The other thing was in his rigorous methodology that he applied in research. He was very, very rigorous. He only would allow the highest standards of quality in our research activities. And he would also sit next to us. In the old days, we didn't have electronic health records. And so we had paper records, and we had to review paper records for all the retrospective studies that we were doing. There wasn't a lot of prospective work back then. And he would sit next to us, the youngest people in the department, he being the director, as the most senior person in the department, and he would sit next to us after hours throughout the night, looking at records and collecting data. And I mean, these were examples that were absolutely extraordinary. And living with someone like this at work really changes your approach. Then I think there were another two people at least that have been quite instrumental in shaping the other aspects of my career. I recall particularly Fausto Pinto, who was the person, he's a past president of the European Society of Cardiology. He was the first person to motivate me to run for an elected position in the board of the European Society of Cardiology. I did not think this was something that was possible to me, and fortunately, I was wrong. And it's been a wonderful journey since then. And another person has been Stefan Achenbach, another past president of the European Society of Cardiology, who's really been extremely important by providing me with so many opportunities to make a significant contribution to the European Society of Cardiology. And these and other people have been really so important to have me where I am today and doing what I do today as well.
What have been some of the biggest challenges you have faced in your career, and how did you navigate them?
One of the challenges I think is, to also to try to preserve a good work-life balance is very important. I think if you are too much dedicated to work, then it really becomes much more difficult to have sufficient time for family, for friends, for patients, even, and also for yourself. And so I think that's been one of the biggest challenges that I faced. I do have two approaches that I think have been quite useful to me personally to overcome this. And one of those is to always do what I like to do. I think the networking aspect of my activities in scientific societies, in medical associations, um, has been really one of the things that has made me very happy with what I do. I love to know other people from different cultures, from different countries, from different professional backgrounds. I really enjoy knowing people, knowing new people. And on the other hand, I think our profession is one of the most rewarding professions because we have the opportunity every day to change people's lives in a positive way. And this just keeps us motivated to, and it's much easier to overcome any barriers, any hurdles, any complexities that you may encounter, whether it's at work or even at home in your personal life. I think these things have really helped me overcome this much easily. The other thing that's helped me quite a lot, I must say, is exercise. I don't know why, but it really does help me keep much happier. It helps me cope much better with stress and with complex issues at work as well. And it gives me more energy, it takes away energy, but it actually gives me much more than I think it takes away. And exercise has really been extremely helpful to manage me cope through a sometimes very difficult agenda, dealing with all these different faces and components of the things I do on a daily basis.
Gender equality remains a topic of discussion in medicine. What is your perspective on this issue, and how can institutions and individuals contribute to promoting a more equitable field?
So I think that we've gone through some significant improvements in the gender disparities. I can remember at the beginning of my career, it was practically impossible to know a female interventional cardiologist. And that's not because there were few female in cardiology at that time. In my own medical course, in my class year, we were about two-thirds women and only one-third men. Yet that was how difficult it was for women to be able to strive, particularly in certain fields of or subspecialties of cardiology, including electrophysiology as well. I think over the years this has changed very significantly, and we see some very good examples of this, namely in the Portuguese Society of Cardiology, in the European Society of Cardiology. We have women now much more part of the faculty of scientific meetings. We even have them in the highest leadership positions of scientific societies as well. So it's changed very much. But I do think there is still room for improvement. I think we can still do more to create the ideal conditions for women, particularly young women with young children, to be able to be faculty members, to be able to have um, good progress in their career, to be able to come to scientific meetings. I think there's still some room for improvement there. So it's been a good, successful story. And in my view, I'm very grateful to see that that's evolved that way. But I still think that we can still do a little bit more.
Let's change topic now for critical thinking. It's essential in medical practice. How do you apply it in your day-to-day work? And can you share an instance where it made a real difference in decision making?
So one immediate way where I apply it at work is when speaking to medical students. And I think there's a golden rule in critical thinking, which is to ask why. I often say about myself to other people that I feel I have become stuck at the age of why, which is that age between the 2 and 5 years, when children are always asking the why questions. Why is your belly growing, mommy? Why this, why that? I think I've been kept stuck all my life in the why. I need to know the why, the rationale behind any observation, behind any conclusion, behind any claim. It's absolutely critical that I understand it. Otherwise, I have difficulties in trusting it. And so I run into issues. I also think that this particular feature of being stuck in the age of why has helped me develop communication skills because it forces you to break down complex things into simple components. That's how you, inside your own mind, you understand why things are the way they are being reported, or the way you're seeing them, or reading about them, or listening about them. And it really helps you then communicate much better to others what you've also acquired in this new knowledge, and to facilitate the understanding of this, and also to help better dissemination of that knowledge. So why is really, to me, the golden rule of any critical thinking process.
From your experience, what qualities make for an effective leader in medicine today?
I think I would highlight selflessness, to be doing things not exactly for your benefit, but for the benefit of others, of an organization, of a group of people. The idea, to me, it's very important. We also have our own mission for our advanced heart failure unit. It's important that we know what we are doing, why we are doing it who for whom we are doing it, and to always keep that in mind in everything that we do, and particularly when we encounter any difficulties, any doubts about whether to go right or left or front or back. I mean, it's really important to remind ourselves of why are we here? What do we stand for? What are we doing? What have we proposed to ourselves as a mission, as a vision, and also as objectives? So I think that's one of the key aspects a leader needs to have. That selflessness to think beyond personal objectives and to think about and to be leading through the objectives that are of the common group. The other characteristic I would highlight is to lead by example. And I go back to Ricardo Seabra Gomez, the first mentor, the first role model I had, when I spoke to you about that particular feature that he had, that he would sit next to us and he would do the hard work that no one else wanted to do, and that he had no obligation to do. He was in a senior position. There were many other people that could be doing this, and yet he sat there next to us throughout evenings, nights, working together with us for something that was not only for our benefit but for the benefit of the whole department. And so, leading by example, selflessness, I think, are two key features of a real good leader.
For our young colleagues aiming to grow their careers, what concrete advice would you offer? What are the common pitfalls to avoid and opportunities worth seizing?
Well, first of all, I think we need to seize all opportunities, especially when you're very young and in the very early stages of your career. Opportunities are not that many as we may think. And there are many people that are not given the same opportunities as others. Um, so when an opportunity is given to you, that is certainly something that I think you should use. It is an opportunity to show to yourself and to others that you can be successful, that you can provide something that is of high quality. And so, if you don't use opportunities, it will be simply much harder for people to know about those qualities that you have in yourself. So, seizing opportunities is something I always recommend. I have a very tough time in saying no. And it's been like this throughout my career. Maybe that's why I've had a multifaceted career. It's really difficult for me to say no. I always try to say yes. If people ask me or give me an opportunity, it's because they think I can give a meaningful contribution. And if you can, you should never dismiss yourself from that opportunity, because ultimately, by providing something good to others, you will also end up happy with yourself and satisfied and with a sense of completeness of having achieved something that is also good for you and for others. Um, the other thing I think is also very important is to look for the right places. Now, it was harder in the old days, where globalization was not present in our life, where we didn't have easy access to speaking to anyone. I mean, if we want to speak to a very important key opinion leader in a particular field of research, or science, it's easy to even find an email because these are on the publications of these people when they're corresponding authors. It's so much easier nowadays to get into contact with what in the old days were almost unreachable people. But having said that, it's still important to make good choices, to find good advice, to know where to go, with whom to work, with whom to progress in your career, in your different phases of your personal development, so that I'm sure that will ultimately help you be more successful in the end, and happier with what you have achieved.
Looking to the future now, what key trends or transformations do you foresee in cardiology over the next decade? How should clinicians prepare for these changes?
Well, on the one hand, I certainly see a more and more digital transformation in healthcare. This is going to improve patients' experience and outcomes in healthcare. It's going to make our lives, it could make our lives much easier, providing more equal care of good quality, of high quality to all in need of care. So digital transformation is certainly a trend that I think has come, and it will be changing progressively the way we provide healthcare and also the outcomes, by improving them for patients and for healthcare systems as well. The other thing is person-centered care. I think patient complexity is increasing considerably. I remember when I began my work in the wards, it was hard to find a patient over the age of 70. Now it's rather easy to find a patient above the age of 85, sometimes even above the age of 90. And they are being treated with complex procedures, with drugs that have got safety issues as well. And they have many more comorbidities that need to equally be well addressed. And so I think we will need to move more into interdisciplinary care and focusing more on the person and having the person really at the center of the healthcare process rather than having the person move around the healthcare system, trying to get the best of care for each of their problems. And finally, I also think there's certainly going to be a trend for more precision medicine. When we look, for example, at one of the most basic things in preventive cardiology, which is to stratify the risk of atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease, we're moving away from the traditional risk factors to imaging methods that can not only identify how much burden of atherosclerosis we already have, but also the quality of that burden. And even that is all being potentiated by artificial intelligence. So we're really going to be able in the future, I believe, to identify really the best patient for each treatment or each intervention. And this will not only improve cost effectiveness, it will also improve the risk benefit of balance of whatever we do with patients. And I think this is a trend that we will be increasingly seeing in the next 10 years.
And finally, is there a book, medical or otherwise, that has had a meaningful impact on you, either professionally or personally?
Yeah, I think one of the books I read, now this was some years ago, was about 20 years ago, but it's still quite timely to speak about the book. Is called Freakonomics, which is the combination of freak and economics. It's written by a economist, a well-known economist, and also a journalist. The cover is very much speaks about the book. The cover is an apple that is a green apple that is partly being cut. And so what you see inside the green apple is actually orange. It looks like an orange inside. So it goes back to the why of things. I think it's a fascinating approach that this economist has found to use economy and to also use statistics, something we also use a lot on our day-to-day practice, to use statistics and economy to explain very unusual questions. And the book has now, developed into a radio network and a weekly podcast that continues to be very successful. So, again, keeping an open mind about things is probably another critical aspect for that critical thinking that we need to develop as an important characteristic, as an important skill. That keeping your mind open to answers that you were not at all expecting, to questions that you may even feel are a little bit silly in the beginning, but then they're not so silly. And I think if you haven't read Freakonomics, you ought to, and you ought to follow their podcast. I think it's a very good one.
As we wrap up, a sincere thank you to Dr. Carlos Aguiar for joining us and sharing such valuable insights.
Ricardo, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you all for listening and stay tuned for more episodes of the Career Boost podcast.